In this week's episode, I teach you how to build a massive pipeline of customers. We talk about the battle for the mind, and I do show and tell. Hi and welcome to episode 14 of Business Greenhouse TV. Super excited to be back in the saddle. I'm really enjoying this time of week that I get in, do these videos for you, loving the interaction. Thank you for those that commented on last week's episode, both on YouTube and Facebook. It was great to see the stuff that's popping out and meaning things to you. That was fun. A couple of bits of news. The Hone household will be +1 in May next year. So Kimberly and I are announcing that we're pregnant, and that'll be our third child, so we're super excited about that. We're finally working in multiples, which is what we teach in business. We're finally doing it as a family because we have 3 kids now, and so I can't wait to meet the new addition there. That's going to be so much fun. And so that's really exciting for us. Another bit of news. My team have been hassling me for weeks to do a show that's a little bit different to what we normally do. They want to do a 10 questions in 10 minutes, personal, business, anything you want to ask, nothing off the table, and I don't have any prior knowledge of the questions. So literally, it'll be like a live, here's the question, what's your answer? Rapid fire, 10 questions, 10 minutes. So to be part of that, to ask any question you want, you cannot offend me, you cannot make me cranky, you can ask whatever you want. But don't email me, email Michelle at businessgreenhouse.com.au. We'll link that up for you. So email her with your question. I won't have any prior knowledge. They want to answer them rapid fire on a show, and they want to go deep and find out what comes out. I'm slightly hesitant about what that means. They're very excited. So I've said, let's give it a go. So that'll either be next week or the week after. But if you've got a question, please send it in to Michelle. Michelle will get those collated and get those on the show. And that'll be a really fun one. Okay, so we can pull back the facade of business and find out what the other stuff is. So super excited about that. Let's get into today's show. Michelle, what is our first question?
Shelley Hodgson asks, how much should a business spend on marketing per year? Is there a percentage of your overall profits that should be reinvested into growing the business?
Great, Shelley Hodgson, Chief Industrial Ladders. Let me give you a shout out. Got a great business there, bringing in ladders from China, very competitive in the marketplace against some of the major brands in ladders, offering a very unique competitive product. So great to see her, powering on in business in something super niche with ladders. That's great fun. We've kind of answered this question before, and I want to do it again for a reason, because it's the question I get asked at every conference I talk to, every group I go to, every time I'm hit up in a shopping center from somebody who knows what we do. It's this question about how much do I allocate to marketing. That's why I'm going to do it again, with a slightly different angle to what I did. So I covered this at the start of episode 1. So if you haven't seen that, let's link that up. So you can go back there and watch episode 1 and see a slightly different answer. It's the same answer, but I'm going to answer it from 2 different perspectives. How much should you allocate to marketing? All of it. Lots. Everything. Buy as many customers as you can right now and don't delay. See, too many people are trying to take money out of the business, trying to, get profits out so they can go and start investing in things. The problem with that is the profits are nowhere near enough to actually create much investing. People come to me and say, listen, I've built a business. I've got $2,000 a month I can invest. I'm like, excellent. Don't bother investing. Spend $2,000 buying customers, invest them in customers. So you've got $10,000, $20,000. Now you can start to play the game of property, stocks, managed funds, whatever you want to do outside of the business. But don't do it with a little bit. You've got to make a decision in business. I think you've got to make a decision about life now versus future life. You've either got to take money now, or you build, or you get much bigger money later. From my perspective, you've either got to pick up $50 today or $500 in the future. That's the kind of difference that we're talking about. And too many people are picking up the little bits today instead of reinvesting it for the big bits later on. See, one of the things that big business know, and they know really well, is that they're interested in market share, like taking real estate in the market. Like if you've got 8% of the market right now, go and get 10 because your business just grew 25%. Like go, if you can either take the little bit out now and invest it and pay off your mortgage or whatever you want to do and trickle feed money out, or put it all back in and your business will be double the size again, double the size again. And at that point there, when you've driven enough top line revenue, then you can start to go, okay, now we're going to lean out this business and make a huge amount of profit, but the profit will be exponentially bigger later on than it is trickle feeding the little bits out now. But most people don't have a long-term view. Most people aren't thinking, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. They're thinking about this month. Got to get this month in so I can get the profit out so I can do this thing. I don't think like that. I used to think like that. When I first started, I was taking all my money out of my business. I was investing it into stocks, into property, and that was okay, but I got smarter. Now, I do a little bit of that, but mostly it's just building a juggernaut because I want to land bank. I want to build I want so much awareness about what we're doing because it'll drive a bigger pipeline later on for that future income. So you've got to make a decision. Do you want to live for the now, live for net, like strip the little bits out to make yourself feel good because you've worked hard? Or do you want to play smart and reinvest everything back in so that you are building a massive pipeline for later on? I reckon it should be option 2. Nowhere near enough people are playing option 2. Everyone's playing the small game and going for today's money instead of the future game, which is way bigger, much bigger money down the line. So how much should you put? All of it. All of it should go in. If you've got any spare money, like the profit that you've got, don't go on a cruise. Don't go and, pay a little bit off your mortgage to make yourself feel better. Get in and buy way more customers, build a much bigger business, take out market share, and that's when you're going to win down the line. By the way, the payday at that point is huge. Very solid question. Hopefully the answer from episode 1 and this one together will help you move that forward. Excellent question. Massive shout out. Shelley doing a wonderful job. Michelle, what is question number 2?
Michelle Foxwell asks, how do I calculate the true break-even point?
Michelle Foxwell, how do I calculate true break-even? So let me give you a shout out first, Michelle, down in Bendigo with Sealer Fridge. They are the franchisors of Sealer Fridge, and they're all across this country. They're doing amazing things. Got a great team there, and took over the franchise, doing amazing things. So well done to Craig and Michelle down there for doing that. So to answer this question, we're going to do a little bit of show and tell. So I've drawn basically a graph for you just to give you a bit of an explanation as to, how do you work out? How do you work out true break-even of a business? So a basic X and Y axis here that you would have learned in like year 6 maths. Basically, there's a couple of elements to the question. The first part is you always have fixed costs. What are the fixed costs? The fixed costs are the amount of money that you will be spending regardless if you do any sales. So rent, like if you don't make any sales this month, you're still going to make rent. Your full-time salary wages are in there. Like if you don't sell, you're still going to pay for those. Your leases on your cars, if you don't sell, you're still going to pay for those. The phone system, no sales, still going to pay. So you have fixed costs. They're the same every single month, okay? So they're like a flat line fixed cost. Then we have the variable costs. These are the costs that it costs you to produce the product or service. So let's say, for example, that we've got a product that we're selling for $50 and it costs us $30 to make the product. Well, that's this $30 per unit is going up because for every unit that we sell, it goes up there. So but it's only $30 every time we sell a unit that we have in variable costs. The sale price is $50. So it goes from the 0 point, not from here because that's on top of fixed costs, from the 0 point, and it obviously grows faster because it's 50, not 30, so it grows at a faster rate. And then at some point, what you'll see is the turnover or the revenues go past the variable cost line. This is your break-even point. Now, you can either do that for dollars or you can do that for units, okay? And either one of those is fine, and they're good to work out. But there is a point where your turnover goes past your fixed cost and your variable cost. When they meet, that is your break-even point, okay? And that is a really good number to know. But here's my concern with knowing that number. It's only half of the equation, and the truth is it's probably not even half of the equation. I'm not in business to break even. I'm in business to make a profit, to make an insanely large profit. Why? So that I can reinvest it in the business, the last question, so that down the line, I've got a big business and I can use the profit to fund God's kingdom, so that I can fund projects to, make the world a better place. That's the reason. So break even is excellent. Like, work that number out. But then reverse engineer what you want from the business. Profit break even. Add a number in. What's the profit you want to be drawing this month from the business, this quarter, this year? And reverse engineer. If you realize that your break even is $26,000 for the month, how much profit do you want? Do you want $10,000? Excellent. It's $36,000 that you've got to produce. So how many units is that you've got to sell? You've got to factor the profit in. Break even's excellent, but we're not shooting for that. We're shooting for a profit. So reverse engineer how much profit you want and then divide the numbers back into each other to work out then how many units, how many products, how many hours you've got to sell in your business to arrive at that number. Okay, so profit is where it's at. Break even is okay. Profit break even is the magic. So you can reverse engineer that process. And essentially, that's just a simple bit of maths that you have to know. Let me tell you about how I did it when I was working in retail. My training ground when I was 14, 15, 16, 17 was in high-end sports footwear retail environment. And I thrived. I loved that environment. But I did this exercise back then, we're talking 1994, 5, 6. I wanted to know our break-even point as a shop and then our profit break-even. Then I wanted to know at what time, on which day of the week did we break even as a shop? And even further than that, I wanted to know what hour of the day did we break even? And I worked out that, we would open the shop at 8:30 in the morning and up until 2:30 in the afternoon was break even. So everything that we did between 8:30 and 2:30 was just to break even, to run the wages, run the lights, run the electricity, run the phones and products. It meant that if we didn't do sales between 2:30 in the afternoon and 5:30, so if we didn't get the after-school rush at the end of the day, we lost money that day, which was excellent to know because then we could make sure that we had this. We were intentional about never ever missing a sale at the end of the day. We would make all of our profit between 2:30 and 5:30 in the after-school rush. If we hadn't known that, we would be getting to, the 25th of the month, looking at our profit and loss and going, we're behind and it's too late to do anything about it. So in a retail environment, I'm looking at it on a daily, hourly basis. At what point do we break even? You might be doing it on a 1 week. At what point in the week do you break even? Which week of the month are you breaking even? That's the loosest you want to be. At which week of the month are you breaking even? I reckon you want to be going down to a week. What point in the week are you breaking even? After that's when you've got to do your best work because that is where your profit is at, okay? So break even is excellent, profit is way better. Get those two numbers. What's the point where your sales cross your variable cost line? How much profit do you want? Reverse engineer what that means. How many more units, how many more hours, how many more products do you have to sell to reach that number? Very solid question. Not enough people take the maths of the business seriously. You've got to know these numbers to be able to put systems and processes around them so that you can then drive the revenue, drive the profit you need. So take 3 minutes at the end of this video, get a pen, get a paper, get your calculator, bring up your Xero or your MyOb or your QuickBooks and start to get the maths down. And then you'll start to get a clearer picture of your true break even and your profit break even. Solid question. Today's show is brought to you by Zaraffa's Coffee. Very early filming today, so this was a quick drive-through on the way in. Let's go straight to word of the week. This week I want to go back to Proverbs. I like if you notice what we're doing kind of one long excerpt story-based teaching, and then I'm coming back to Proverbs. Funny thing about Proverbs, you may or may not have worked this out, 31 Proverbs, 31 days in a month. Isn't that interesting? It's almost like if you were to read one a day, every day, you would read the whole book of Proverbs 12 times in a year. Do you reckon you might have a deeper level of understanding if you read the book of Proverbs 12 times in 1 year? I reckon you might. So a great reading pattern for the entrepreneur because it's like the business Bible condensed is Proverbs. So get in there and reading one a day. I reckon we should put out a challenge about who's doing that. So actually, here's just a little side note. If that's you, if you're prepared to go for the challenge of reading one proverb a day, getting through it, make a little note in the comments. Say, I'm doing it, and I'm gonna watch that journey with you and see what that means to you. Proverbs 4, 12:23 says this. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So let's unpack that a little bit. Like everything flows from what's inside of us. So what's inside of you? Like, have you ever taken the time to work out what's inside of you? Like, have you ever taken the time to work out what do you believe? What do you really believe at a heart level? What do you really believe about business? What do you really believe about faith? What do you really believe about money? What do you really believe about people? Like, have you ever stopped and done a bit of an audit? Because nothing can come out unless it's already in there, okay? Like, that's why I love this one. A lot of us have head knowledge. A lot of us have got a lot of head knowledge. What has gone to your heart? What's the heart? Because it'll always overrule the head, okay? You can kind of trick it with head knowledge, but not for a long period of time. What is inside the heart will eventually be the stuff that comes out. So are you guarding what goes in? Do you guard? Like, the battle for the mind, for the entrepreneur, is massive. There's always things that want to throw you off guard. Now, we know that, the market is against us. The market forces, ourselves are against us because, everyone procrastinates and self-sabotages to some degree. The enemy is against us because he wants to throw you off track. Like, have you ever taken the time to work out how to guard your mind? Another scripture says, whatever is of good report, think on those things. That's the condensed version. And I really like that. What is the good stuff around you? Do you get thrown off by ISIS, the France attacks? What's happening in Africa with Boko? Like, is that the stuff? Like, are you really interested in Channel 24 and the news and and Facebook about all these graphic images? Because after a period of time, you'll evidence gather. That's the only stuff you'll see after a period of time, and you'll forget. You'll forget that there's a whole world of good out there. And then that's not thinking on good things. Let me put it to you this way. Do you know that for every one terrorist attack on the planet, there are 900 acts of love, grace, and kindness? They're not reported in the news, but if you're not focusing on them, if you're not aware of them, you'll get sucked into the vortex. And what will sink inside your heart is the world's doomed, life sucks, Jesus isn't real. That's the stuff that'll end up in your heart. And you will lose if that's what you truly start to believe, because it's not the truth. It's just what's dished up to you in your news feed and on the news and reading in the papers. It's not the truth. I prefer to believe Isaiah 9, his government is ever expanding. That's the truth. That's my baseline. That's what I choose to focus on. But what do you choose to focus on? What does that look like for you? What is inside your heart? Okay, so that's like the kingdom part that I wanted to deal with. Like, you've got to learn to filter. You've got to learn to read about the good stuff. You know what I mean? Like, do you lose one customer but have your greatest month and then be all down about the one customer? Because I'd be being like all up about my biggest month and not worrying about the customer. Like, where are you putting your attention? Let me put it into a business context. What's inside of your heart has to come out. And are you thinking about what's inside of your heart? Many Christians at a heart level still have problems with, is money a good thing? Is money a bad thing? Is it less spiritual to have more? And they're still wrestling with this little thing, of what will it mean to me if I become very wealthy? You cannot have two opposing thoughts and expect one outcome. You cannot believe at your core that money is a bad thing and then go and build a massive business, because they cannot coexist. They are two opposing beliefs that you are holding in your heart. So you've got to look at, right inside of you, what do you truly believe about business, about money, about people, commerce, what the Bible says about entrepreneurship? What do you really believe? Because if you're deep down, if you're unsure that God likes entrepreneurship, you're never going to do everything it takes to go and build a great business. You're never going to do that. And it's let's just talk about that one for a second. It's crazy to think that God thinks that money is less spiritual. Like, look at Solomon. Look at the Apostle Paul. Look at the sons of Zebedee. His first disciples were all businessmen. Like, there are so many accounts. Abinadab, the tin merchant. Like, there are so many examples. And if money was the thing that discluded you from being spiritual, he couldn't have used any of the people that he did in the Bible. So let's not go there. But it's one thing for me to tell you, and it's one thing for you to own it in here. And that's really what I'm getting at. What are you owning at a heart level? Because you can only operate out of that. You need to take some time to do a self-audit of what you truly believe and start to document the stuff inside of you that is not biblical and the stuff inside you that is. and start to really meditate on the good stuff and really enjoy the fact that you've got the good stuff in there. But you've got to deal with the stuff that is not of God, that is inside of your heart. And we all have to do this process. We all need to audit ourselves. Here's a challenge. The best thing you could possibly do is go get your journal, go get your Bible, take a pen and a big bottle of water, go down to the beach. For my American friends right now, put a jacket on because it's chilly for you. Get some time out, go to the mountains, ski fields, whatever it is that is your thing, and go and be quiet for a whole day, maybe 2 days, maybe it's an overnight. Start to write out, Lord, show me what's the stuff inside of me that I need to deal with that is holding me back from becoming more like you, becoming a better entrepreneur. That's the process. Will you do it? Some will, some won't. But the ones that do will start to get a true picture of what is inside of their heart. And then they can go through a simple process of dealing with the stuff that is in there that is not going to propel them forward. Fairly big challenge for you to do, but personally, I think it's essential because you cannot operate sustainably outside of what you truly believe. So what do you truly believe? Go through a process, look at the good stuff and the bad stuff, deal with the bad stuff and make it good stuff. And you will prosper, you will fly. Solid episode. Remember, get your questions to Michelle if you want to be part of the personal show that we do in a week or two. I've got a bit of trepidation about that, but I think it's going to be fun. You lot will enjoy it, I'm sure. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.